Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast, where we explore the art of living a fulfilling life through mindfulness, self discovery, and also personal growth. Now, today's conversation is about finding real happiness. Not the fluffy, one size fits all kind, but the science backed, trial and error kind. Our guest today knows this journey all too well. Years of being bullied left him shattered, but instead of giving up, he rebuilt his confidence and self esteem from the ground up. Through 15 years of relentless self discovery, our guest has cracked the code on how the mind works and how we can use that understanding to change habits, improve our focus, and most importantly, find happiness. So let's welcome the mentor he wishes he had at 15, the inspiring Maikel Michiels. Get ready, everyone, to take notes because this conversation is going to be as practical as it is transformative. So, Michael, welcome to the show. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm ready to share some insights with your listeners.
Great. Uh, Michael, happiness, it can feel so elusive for many of us. So, from your personal journey, what do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of achieving true happiness?
Most people think that happiness is just a certain condition, a certain goal, a certain idea of once I reach X, Y, and Z, I will be happy. But that is a fallacy because once you reach that goal, you're going to be like, yeah, I did it. Then you move on to the next thing. So, one of the main things that I would love everyone on this planet to take away is that it's not the end goal that makes us happy. More than ever, it is the journey, the road from where you are to where you want to go. It is progress that brings happiness, not the end result of that progress.
Why do you think is that, if let's say we kind of put it as a motivation for ourselves, okay, I'll not be satisfied and happy until and unless I find my goal, I get that output. And let me just, hold myself back until and unless I get that output done. Why do you think it is so important?
Having goals is incredibly important, but it's also a lot of things in life are like in two directions. You've got two opposite things that seem contradictory, but when you combine them, it makes a great thing. So if you have no goals at all, you're going to feel lost. You're going to feel meaningless. So one of the best things you can have is something to strive for. That's one of the things that got me out of depression. Because when I was depressed, I just saw no way out of there. But if you still feel terrible, but you see a way of, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and little bit by little bit, I can make it better. Now you won't have those like permanent feelings of depression because you have something to move towards. But at the same time, the goalpost is always moving further away from you. So if you say, I want to make 6 figures a month or a year, and by the time you get there, it's like, can I get to 300,000 or 500,000 or 700,000? And so is moving always towards a goal that excites you while knowing that the goal is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because you get better as a person as well.
Yeah, that makes sense, Michael. Also, as you mentioned about, it helped you get out of your depression. After facing bullying and battling with depression, what role did mindset play in rebuilding your confidence and self-esteem?
I would say that mindset is basically everything. One of the stories that I was once told that's a fictional story is the one of the two brothers. So two brothers grew up in a household where both of their parents were alcoholics, like a very abusive household. And 30 years later, they met with these same brothers. One of them had a great career, great car, great family, and he never touched a drop of alcohol. The other brother, he became an alcoholic himself, didn't have a job, lived on the streets. So two polar opposites. But then once the interviewer asked, how did your life turn out this way? Both of them gave the same answer. Because my parents were alcoholics. So you can take a certain situation and you can let it defeat you. Or you can take a certain situation and you can use it to empower yourself, to fuel yourself, to drive you to greater and better things. So in those moments when I was being bullied, when I had no confidence, when I was depressed, I chose to get better rather than to get bitter. And I think that mindset shift, which is completely in our control, changes everything in life.
Exactly, exactly. Very, very encouraging, Michael. Also, you emphasize on practical solutions rather than having abstract ideas. So, can you share some techniques that listeners can start applying today to feel happier and more in control of their lives?
Of course, yeah. I think especially with young people today, just allow yourself to be bored. Because right now, usually for people, they wake up, they scroll on their phone, go have breakfast, get in the car. In the car, they have music on or a podcast. They get to work where they're constantly busy. They drive back home again with the radio on. They go and cook dinner. Maybe during eating, they have no phones or no distractions. And then it's the TV, it's Netflix, it's more scrolling. And there is not a single moment of rest for our brains.
Totally.
Whereas our brains basically have two modes. One of them is where you're taking in information, like listening to this podcast, for example. But there is also what we call the default mode network, which is where you're focusing on nothing at all. Maybe you just sit in silence. You just close your eyes for a few moments and you do nothing. You see what thoughts come up. And when you do that, your mind is going to start processing things. It's going to connect the dots. And that's where a lot of us can really shape our understanding of ourselves, understanding of the world. And that is a crucial aspect that so many people lack. So even if it's just 15 minutes, go for a walk without your phone. Go and sit in silence. Go and just meditate. Do some of those things because those will help you find more of yourself. And they will help you also find meaning and purpose in life as well.
Wow, wow. That is really, really good technique. First of all, before even using the techniques, you very well explained the actual science behind it. The two states of brain, and I think it gives the much required clarity on why these practices or techniques should be practiced. Especially by the younger generation when we are having that information barrage from all places. Also, Michael, you talk about improving focus and discipline to achieve happiness. But some mindfulness teachings they suggest that happiness comes from accepting what is, rather than striving to change it. So what's your take on this? Can striving and acceptance coexist?
Absolutely. And I think it should coexist. And I can't remember who it was, but someone had the term of blissful dissatisfaction, meaning that you are like over the moon of where you have already gotten. You are excited about the progress you've made, but you know there is still work to be done. Because once you get complacent, that's when things start spiraling down. That's when things are like not going so well because we feel like we've lost that drive. And that, like I said before, the progress is what creates the happiness. So
Mhm.
it is being okay with where you are, being proud of it if you have overcome some setbacks, some struggles, but then also moving towards the next thing. And with all of this, the one thing I'll give is then again, the goal is not the goal. The person who is capable of achieving the goal. That is the real, true goal.
Wow. Wow. Wow, some golden nuggets today from this conversation for our listeners. And Michael, many struggle with recurring negative thoughts. You have gone through these kind of situations. So, from your experience, what's the best way to interrupt that cycle? Because it can really leave you, make you go to some dark places. And what's that technique or best way to interrupt that cycle and also reframe one's mindset?
Let's see. There are a few things that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, for any listeners, just know yourself in this regard. Because there are some people who have those voices in their minds, which are the echoes of what other people have told them. Because nobody grows up just hating themselves. People grow up happy, confident, but then maybe someone gets bullied. Or your parents tell you, in good nature, you've got to work harder. And you take that to mean that you're not good enough. And so all of those negative voices are the echoes of things that people have said to you. And when I say know yourself, is that it isn't necessarily a bad thing for everyone. Because you can use the fact that you are bullied. You can use the fact that you are rejected. You can use the fact that maybe your girlfriend or your boyfriend cheated on you. And you can use that as fuel. But for some people, it doesn't just burn the fuel, it burns them out as well. So that's why you need to know, is this going to make me a better, more competitive person? Or is this going to end up making things worse for me? And if you realize you're the person for who it makes things worse, then use some other techniques to really reshift your focus. So one thing that I do is whenever I have a terrible situation, I just try to take a step back, which I know is difficult. And then I ask, what can I do now to make this even just a little bit better? Focus on the practical steps forward rather than looking back at what has been, what could be, all of the doubts, the insecurities. Because the truth is, we all have fear. Every single person. But you can use the fear to make sure that you double and triple down on what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can use it to let doubt sink in and do half or a quarter of what you could be doing. So that's, I think, the difference between a mindset where you move forward and one where you like move backwards.
Mm. Also, uh, many people believe happiness comes from fixing external circumstances. To some extent, I also believe that, while you focus on internal changes. So, is there a risk of overlooking external factors like relationships, work environment, or financial security when focusing solely on internal solutions?
Again, I think it's something that you use both sides. Because on one hand, if you have better relationships, if you have better family life, better social life, maybe a more fulfilling career, maybe more financial security, that elevates you because those are things that you can feel proud of.
Exactly.
On the other hand, it won't fix a lot of the deep holes that were left behind because maybe you were bullied or something else happened. You didn't have a household where you felt loved by your parents, right? Those holes won't be filled by that promotion. So just like when they're building a tunnel, for example, under like a canal or some body of water, they always begin digging on both sides and they meet in the middle. I think that concept is the same here. You want to be striving for becoming a better person. You want to be striving for the next goal. But at the same time, you also want to take those moments in silence where you can let your insecurities just boil up, come to the surface, so that you can then work on accepting them, on forgiving yourself for some things, on forgiving other people. And that in combination, that's where you can make a lot of the progress.
I agree. I agree. Michael, before we wrap up, as now we have approached the holidays and also a fresh start in the new year, many of us, we think about resolutions and building better habits. So what's your approach to habits, creating habits that stick during this festive season, as well as throughout, you know after the festive season as well, and they set the foundation for a happier, more focused life in the year ahead.
So, one thing, first of all, with resolutions, there's a reason why most of them fail.
Yeah.
And that is because with almost all New Year's resolutions, they miss the one crucial component, which is, why are you doing this? What is the burning desire for it? Because if you truly were passionate about changing an area of your life, why are you going to say, well, it's the 23rd right now of December. I'm just going to wait a week. Why are you going to say in June, like, oh no, this year is ruined. I'm just going to start next year. If it was truly important, why not start now? So I think with creating habits, there are two things that really come to mind right now, which is number one, the realization of, why do I do this? What is it that this habit is going to allow me to do in the future? Is it going to allow me to become the person that I want to be? Is it going to allow me to achieve a certain goal? Why is that important to me? And one thing I can give you in this regard is very simple. It was invented a long time ago. It's called a pen. Because once your thoughts are in your head, that is not the best place for them to be.
Yep.
If you just write it out and then ask yourself, okay, this answer I've written down for why I want to achieve this goal. Why is that thing important to me? And again, go a layer deeper. Go towards a deeper emotional core. And once you find something like that, where you maybe almost get into tears thinking about it, that's when you have something that is so emotionally desirable that is going to help you bridge the gap. And then the other part of this is make it simple. So back when I was writing a lot of articles, I first said to myself, I'm going to finish this 2,000 word article today. But then it felt overwhelming and I didn't do it. And so I changed that to, I'm just going to write a paragraph. I'm just going to get started. And you sit down because that goal is simple. And now one paragraph turns into 2, to 3, to 5. And before you know it, that article is written. But it never would have been written if I made it so complicated, so complex, so overwhelming that I never took action. So with those two, I think you can build some great habits that actually stick.
Definitely. Lovely, lovely, Michael. This was such a good and very, very straightforward explanation, answers, with some great golden nuggets for our listeners to take away, especially during the holidays and, when they're planning their lives ahead. So thank you so much, first of all, for sharing your incredible journey and also giving us these practical tools and techniques to unlock happiness and resilience backed with science as well. So if our listeners, they wish to connect with you and explore more about your work, how they can do that.
So for most of my platforms, it is just my name, Maikel Michiels. So for the website, that is maikelmichiels.com. If you prefer video content, that is youtube.com/@Maikel or you can just use the search bar, of course. And then if someone is struggling with confidence specifically, One thing that I have is a free masterclass of about 2 hours on basically everything you need to build confidence and the main breakthroughs I had for myself. And you can get that for free by going to maikelmichiels.com/confidence. So those are the best ways to get in touch.
Great. We'll have all the details in the show notes for our listeners. And to all of our listeners, I would like to add that happiness isn't something you find, it's more of a something that you build. So start small, as Michael rightfully said. Start today and start with the tips you have learned here. And if you loved this conversation, don't forget to connect with Michael. We'll have all the details in the show notes along with this episode. And don't forget to subscribe to us, share, and leave us a review. Until next time, this is your host, Sana, reminding you to live mindfully and chase your own version of happiness. See you soon.